And thank you so much, all of y'all, for coming in today. Myself, I am Dolly Tucker, the Chief Operating Officer at Autism Connect. The word itself explains a lot. Autism is what we are going to discuss today. So, my first question to all of you: how many of you have heard this word autism? Forget what it means, but how many of you have heard this term called autism? Okay, good, which is nice. And just to understand, what do you understand by autism? What is your understanding in regards to what is autism? You will not answer, you know it well. So yes, anybody who would like to just share what y'all understand by this term autism?
It's a disability that is not necessarily visible, so it makes it challenging for the person, for the other person, basically.
Good, you're there, but yes, I will clarify all of that once we have the presentation here. So yes, to start with, Assalamu alaikum, all of you, and Namaste from India. So we welcome you all, and I would really love to thank Adidas and our beautiful Madeline to invite us. She is taking great initiative, guys, because all of this is really important in the current scenario that we are facing. So yes, thank you so much, Madeline, for taking this effort. So these are the few key points that we will be discussing today, just to give you an overview. So we will first discuss what autism is, for you all to understand in a very simple layman language, and then we have an expert with us who will give you all more deeper insights. And also we will discuss ADHD. Next we'll have steps that Adidas can take for these individuals on the spectrum, a lot of things that can be done for them. And next we have sensitization of the organization. So there might be in future, you will have employees who are on the spectrum who are having ADHD. How do you accommodate them? How do you understand their needs? And how can you have an environment to help them get their maximum potential is what we will be discussing. Next point that we will discuss is if your employee has a child with autism. So there are a lot of challenges that they have to face back there at home. So them being in office and the child being at home, how can we balance all of that? So we are going to discuss all of these points today. So are you all ready? So let's get to the statistics. So how many of you have noticed that there are people around you, or have you noticed somebody on the spectrum or having ADHD? Has anybody experienced? Good. One hand goes up, you as well. Great. So what made you, come to a conclusion that probably this child or the person has autism or ADHD? What sign did you see?
It's someone who's very close to me, actually. And she has been diagnosed since like a long time ago, I think around 5 years, 10 years.
Okay.
She has been diagnosed with it because she has always been very, very smart, but with a very short span, a lot of moving, she gets very hyper and then she comes down in a second. Because actually I noticed that even as much as the time passes, her behavior starts to get even more extreme when it comes to moving, when it comes to talking, when it comes to thinking. Everything just happens. All of this happens even with a very short span. So a very short time span, thinking span. So this is why she started affecting work, life, her personal life, her relationships, her studies and everything. So it took some time, but she was able to actually reach the
yes.
diagnosis.
Yeah, because that's what we are going to discuss here, how we can create an environment for them to help. So if we are aware, we can definitely help them. Great. So I wanted to really know how much you all have experienced or seen, these kind of incidences. So here we have our statistics for Egypt. Now let me tell you, autism in 2000 was something around 1 in 150 children as per CDC. Now, in Egypt itself, it's 1 in 100. So it's increasing rapidly, is why we are here for a discussion today, that there will be people you all will be coming in contact with. So you all should know, you all should be ready and prepared, because it's actually a pandemic that we are going to face in the future. So yes, it's 1 in 100 in Egypt. So yes, as we can see here, according to the CDC, the latest reports show in 2023, it's 1 in 36 children. It's beyond imagination what we are going to face in future. In the next 10 years, you will see the figure going up to 1 in 10 children. And you can then imagine how gradually it's going to increase. So that's the reason it is important for us to be able to understand what all this is, and accordingly we'll be able to create an environment for them. So let's come to the word autism. What does it exactly mean? So in a literal term, as you can see here, autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition. It is also characterized by differences in communication, behavior, and social interaction. So I'll speak further about that. But before I go further, I want you all to understand this term called neurodevelopmental condition, or neurodiversity is what we call them, neurodiverse and neurotypicals. We are neurotypicals and they are neurodiverse. So what is neurodiversity? Let me come back to a very layman language. They are simply wired differently, okay? Now we have certain connections in our brains, okay? A lot of connections. And when it comes down to a person who is identified as on the spectrum, their connections are either half of ours or they are double the number of connections than us comparatively. So that is the reason. So all these wirings are the reason that their brains work differently. They are different but not less. Certain things they can do even much better than what you and me can do. So it basically boils down to one thing, that they're wired differently, is why it's called a neurodevelopmental condition. Okay, it's a very layman language, easy to understand, is why I have used this term. Next, because these children have a lot of challenges, but no two children are the same. So their signs and symptoms and all of those things, no two children on the spectrum will show the same signs and symptoms. They're all different. And also, there are 3 types: mild, moderate, and severe. And moreover, we can see boys on the spectrum in comparison to girls. So yes, these are the main 3 symptoms, like boiled down to 3, but there are many sub-symptoms. So first is poor social interaction. They do not feel the need, okay? I'll tell you an instance after this. Next is impaired communication. So they would not communicate as much as we do, not so clear as we do. The third one being restricted and repeated behavior. So there are a lot of differences that are there in their behavior. Now, I just came across a parent and a therapist who told me that there was this child who was 8 years old and would not talk, and was obviously constantly taking speech therapy. And at the age of around 13 or 14, the child started to talk, started to communicate. And the therapist asked the child, why was it that you were not, communicating earlier? He had an answer to say, I was in my mind. Didn't you hear it? So they do not understand. Their wiring is done differently. So the electricity that needs to pass does not go through the way it goes in you and me. So they do not understand. In the brain, the child was speaking and thought that the world is listening, but it was not that. So they are wired differently, their connections are different, is why all of these things. So yes, these are the signs and symptoms that we see apart from the main three. Social skills, they have poor eye contact. They do not see eye in eye. They have delayed or lack of response to names. So if you call them, see, it's not that they are not listening to you. They are listening to you. It is not that they don't want to answer, but their connections are not built in such a way that all of this coordinates and you get a reply. Okay, is how their brain works. So they would be engrossed in something else. They're listening to you, but they do not reply back. So next is communication skills. They have delayed speech and language as well, comes in a little late. So you need to work on these children, give them therapies, give them the kind of treatments that they need. Yes, it may or may not come. There are other ways of communicating which can be used for these children. So now we have shifted. The drift now has not come to trying to normalize them, because there is no normal. You and me are also not normal. We also have our preferences. We also have our comfort zones, and we would like to be in that kind of an environment. So these children need to be worked upon. Their language needs to be developed. If they're not able to talk, then there are other ways, other means that can be used. In totality, they should just be able to communicate to the world, is what the shift has now turned to. Next is repetition of words, dialogues, and sentences. They might just keep repeating things. So that's a classic example of children on the spectrum. Behavioral issues. Have you seen children lining up cars, lining up things? So those are behavioral issues. They like doing that. They love seeing the fan rotate. They will constantly look to the fan, and they love the motion. They love these sync, and they love routine. They love something in a proper pattern, and they follow the pattern. I'll come back to that. Physical features, yes, a few. Flat feet, unusual sweating, balance issues while sitting, standing or walking. These are a few of the things. And other symptoms is hyperactivity and lack of fear. So there are children, if at all, they get hurt, they don't feel it, because their sensory touch is wired differently, and they do not feel all of that. They might stand at the edge of a building, and they really do not understand what's going to be happening if they, supposedly jump. So that's how it is. Sensory issues. They have a lot of sensory issues, is where our role and the role of Adidas comes into play. We can, around this sensory issue, if we work, we can do a lot of things and develop a lot of things for these children. Let me come to the sensory symptoms that they have. For us, wearing clothes is really easy. Any kind of texture we get used to. These children prefer only certain kinds of textures that they are comfortable with. As I again keep repeating myself, they are wired differently, their connections are different. So that's the reason these sensory issues they have. Light seems too bright. They are very sensitive to light. So you might be seeing children coming to the airport with bright lights, and they react in a very violent way. So that's the reason they cannot take in so much light. You might have been seeing children at the mall. Out of nowhere, there's a lot of light flashed, and they have another different reaction that they give for the same. Next is sounds. Now recently, if you all might not be knowing, but I happened to meet Dr. Temple Grandin, who is an individual on the spectrum, and she has done a lot of work for children on the spectrum and individuals on the spectrum. I was interviewing her for our podcast, and in between there was an ambulance that was passing by. So for you and me, it is not a disturbance. Believe me, I didn't even notice the sound of the ambulance. But Dr. Temple Grandin had to stop. She's like, let this pass. It's making me uncomfortable. So let this just pass and we will start again. So that was a sensory issue that she went through, and she had to literally stop. So for you and me, that sound is not so loud, but for them, even a slightest of a sound is really loud, and it is what creates discomfort for them. Soft touch feels too hard, is what I mentioned earlier. Food textures. There are a lot of foods that they don't eat. They prefer only certain kind of textured food, and that's what they eat. So they are picky eaters for that reason. Next is have poor balance or seem clumsy. So these are a few symptoms of sensory issues. Are afraid of play on the swings, and there are lots other of symptoms. But yes, sensory issue is a very important thing that we need to work. So we go to the next slide. I hope y'all are all following me. All you there, the backbenchers, are y'all okay? Are y'all, no, it's not about okay. Are y'all following me? Are y'all able to understand or follow what I'm talking? Or anywhere, if y'all are not able to understand or process this, please stop me. I will repeat myself as many times as you want me to. Yes, so I will play this video for you, which is a little video of, see, now this child is not giving eye contact. Head banging. Do you see that child? They like it. Tiptoe walking. So he's not responding. Repetitive behavior. So this was a little video to reinforce. So visual. I always believe rather than talks, if you visually enforce things, it registers easily. Am I correct? Or am I just imagining things? There, but I need those people to respond to me. The ones sitting behind. Are they? Have you given them some task? Are they finishing the target of the day?
Guys are taking notes for the right?
Is it? Seriously? Oh, I will give it to you. Don't you worry. I'll send you the PPT. Just one second. Excellent. So now I have a small video that I will play which shows how these children or how these individuals see the world.
Six, 7, 8, 9. Take my hand.
No,
Alex.
it's fine, isn't it? It's fine.
I'm not naughty. I'm autistic. And I just get too much information.
In a very short video, I tried to explain. So did you see how intricately we see it as a broader picture, they see it in a very intricate way. He could listen to the sound of the lady having something with the straw. He could listen to, the ambulance sound passing by. He could sense the smell irritated him. The colors, the flashy colors made him feel uncomfortable. So this is how they process information. It is not that they are faking it or trying to throw tantrums. This is how they feel. This is how they see. And this is, we think that they are naughty. As he said, I am not naughty. I am autistic. And
what's the relation between how they see the world and the breathing part?
he was not able to take all that, and is why that reaction. It is called a meltdown. So that's why the screaming. He couldn't load in so much of change, because for them, going to such places, going to the airports, you need to prepare them earlier. So this is the sequence that is going to happen. This is how it will be. You will face such kind of situations. So you need to prepare them much before to be able to, for them to be able to process all this. So he couldn't process that, all of it together, and that's why the meltdown, and that's why he started screaming. So yes, was this pretty clear, doctor? Two, there are also other related problems with autism. So some of the problems are gut issues. They have a lot of gut issues. So their diet needs to be altered according to their gut issues. Next is OCD. So they have obsessive compulsive disorder. Next is they do have seizures as well. Next they have mood disorders. Sleep, yes, they have a lot of sleep disturbance and learning difficulties. So these are problems that are associated with autism. Now let's talk about what causes autism. To be very frank, there is no such science that has been able to prove exactly what causes autism. But yes, there are a few factors that have been put across. The first one being prenatal and antenatal problems. Next is, as I just spoke about, gut issues, genetic factors, older age of the parents. Then we have the electromagnetic radiation, which is creating a havoc, guys. Next is heavy metal toxicity, and yes, vaccinations. So we'll discuss in depth about this. So the first one, we can go to the next slide. So the first one being prenatal and antenatal causes. So if there is an infection to the mother during pregnancy, it may cause maternal diabetes during pregnancy, maternal depression, so depression, anxiety, and all these things while the mother is pregnant can attribute to autism, PCOD in mothers, and smoking. These are a few prenatal and antenatal causes. We go next. So gut issues. So if you see here, 9 out of 10 children with autism suffer from gastrointestinal problems. And if your gut is not in place, definitely there are a lot of things linked to it, and that is the cause as well. So because of all these abnormal bacteria, it causes mood and behavior changes, impaired cognition, and poor brain development. Next, we have the age of the father. So more the age of the father, there are higher chances for the child to be detected on the spectrum. Yes, here we come to the electromagnetic radiations from mobile phones. A lot of problems. So if we see here, we can go to the
Question, radiation for the kids or for the parents?
both. During pregnancy, if the mother is exposed too much to these radiations, it creates obviously the child is on the spectrum. And nowadays we do this. Here I have no idea, I should have spoken to you. In India, if the child is not eating food, if the child is yelling, shouting, give the phone to the child, and there you go.
Very common in
Same. Okay. We are on the then same page.
parents in
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just asking because we have a lot of parents in the room here now. Screen time is suffering as well.
Yeah.
Are this one of the main reasons behind the increase in the cases?
No, it's not the main reason. It's one of the reasons which can attribute. Because, see, what happens is, at a very early age, if you give the child a mobile phone, the way the development of the brain should happen by doing normal activities, the daily life skills and all those kind of things, they are stuck to the mobile phones and they see all of that and repeat all those things. I have seen children imitating Doraemon, talking like Doraemon. So they're fixed, glued to that, and they imitate all of those. They think that's the world. They think that's how everything works. They're glued to that thing, and is what the brain learns. The brain needs to learn different things that are happening on a daily basis, but they are stuck to the phone and they are stuck to those videos, and that is what they learn. So they shouldn't be learning all of those.
Just so sometimes they can do away with it, but sometimes they can develop it. So
See, it develops after a certain age. It comes in, and the diagnosis comes in a little late. But yeah, the signs and symptoms are there. It starts early, and then it is detected at the age of 7 months, 6 months. Yes, nowadays it is identified. Yeah.
From 7 months.
Yes, as early. Is why we always emphasize on early intervention. If you see certain red flags, so if your child is not the milestones, if the milestones are delayed, the child is supposed to speak by a certain age, say 6 months, 8 months, starts to babble. So if that is going late, if the child is walking late, if the child is not giving you eye contact, if the child is not answering if you are, snapping, or if you are, calling them by their name. So all these things are little, signs and symptoms that you can identify at home. And if you think, if your instinct, your mother instinct tells you that yes, there is something wrong, I would always recommend to, speak to your pediatrician. It's any day rather better to start early and take actions as soon as possible. Yeah, we go next. So yes, this is what the electromagnetic radiation does. It alters the brain cell activity, is what I was talking about earlier. It increases the blood-brain barrier. So what happens is our brain has certain barriers which filters the information that should get in. So these cells, these radiations destroy those. It's a major thing that happens because of all this. And there are a lot of genetic changes that happen because of all these radiations. So it's, yes, very harmful. So then there you go, neuronal damage and altered brain development because of these radiations. We go next. Yes, there is a lot of heavy metal toxicity that also, can cause autism, which is lead poisoning. We can go next. Aluminium, next. We have mercury, and yes, here we go to vaccines. Now, there is a lot of debate that goes around vaccinations. Some say that yes, it may cause because of vaccines, but as of now, this particular vaccine, which is the MMR vaccination, there are claims that this vaccination does cause autism, but as of now, we do not have a result to prove that yes, it causes or it does not. So it's still under debate. We can go next. So here, MMR vaccination does not or does cause autism. We do not have any clarification, but yes, there have been claims by parents that it does. Next, we go how to diagnose autism. That's the reason I have Dr. Alisha Lalji with us here. Why we discuss this topic and why Dr. Alisha Lalji? Because she is a psychologist. So the first person that whom you go to for getting your diagnosis done is a psychologist or your pediatrician. So yes, professionals who can help you diagnose is psychiatrist, pediatric neurologist, developmental pediatrician, child psychologist, occupational therapist, and speech and language pathologist. We have a lot of imaging that can be done for these children, and we can now identify exactly where in the brain is the activity less and where in the brain the activity is more. So we can now pinpoint the child is good at what and where the brain function is more or less. So we have the MRI, the PET scan, EEG, all of these that y'all can screen the child for. So yes, a lot of things that now have come up and a lot of solutions as well that we have for these children. We'll look at that further. Now we have ADHD. What is ADHD? We need to understand that as well. So if you see here, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is what we call the term as ADHD, is also a developmental disorder that affects the person's behavior. Now, y'all can get confused with autism and ADHD, but autism is a huge umbrella. ADHD comes under it. But on itself, ADHD, you will find a lot of people now being diagnosed as ADHD.
I think it's known in Egypt more than
Autism, yeah. Because I'll come to that.
Okay.
So yeah, the typical characteristics of ADHD are inattention. So difficulty paying attention, staying on task, or being organized. I'm so sure now half of you all must be doubting. I think I am here somewhere. Next is hyperactivity, being constantly moving or extremely restless, even in inappropriate situations. So this is another trait that symbolizes ADHD. Impulsiveness, acting without thinking. Next is interrupting others or having difficulty with self-control. So these are a few of the symptoms that go with ADHD. We'll see the difference in ADHD and autism. So let's have a look at the difference. So in ADHD, primarily characterized by difficulties with attention is what we spoke about. Hyperactivity and impulsivity. So people with ADHD may have trouble staying organized, be easily frustrated, be often late or forget things, talk non-stop, and interrupt when someone else is talking. But on the other way around, autism primarily marked as challenges in social communication. So you can see the difference really very clearly. Social communication and interaction along with restricted and repeated behavior and interests. People with autism may have difficulty understanding other people's feelings. So they cannot process feelings as much as you and I do. Next is they avoid eye contact, as we spoke earlier. They have a strong preference for routines. Believe me, guys, I had this parent who came to us for the podcast, and she said, I generally pick my child from school, and we walk through the same street every day, and we reach home. On that particular day, the mother had to buy a packet of bread. The child threw crazy tantrums, and there was a meltdown as well, just for the fact that there was a change in the routine. The mother had to stop just to buy the bread. So imagine such a small change in the routine, and it triggered a meltdown. meltdown, as we saw, the child could not handle so much of processing, and that's why they start crying or they start shouting. That's called a meltdown. So yes, a little change in the routine disturbs them. On the other hand, symptoms like a hard time putting words to their thoughts and feelings. As I told you, that child said, I was talking to y'all, didn't y'all hear me? He was doing that in his mind. So yeah, this is the classic differentiation between ADHD and autism. We go to the next. So yes, now we come to a part where we find solutions. We spoke about what is autism, we spoke about what are the signs and symptoms, all of those. But now, how do we sensitize the world for them to be able to have a good environment? So sensitization of the organization, we will first look at if your employee is on the autism spectrum. Next, we will see if the child of the employee is on the autism spectrum. So we go next. So the first thing we'll discuss about is if the employee is on the autism spectrum, what all steps should we take? We need to promote awareness and sensitivity as we are doing today. We are trying to advocate you all to make you all understand what this condition is all about. Next, we need to check for their abilities and strengths. So now, I had this parent who had a child who is on the spectrum. In school, I think twice or thrice the child was, not, the teachers were not able to handle him and had to be removed from the school, the child. But when the environment was set right, everything fell into place. Today, that boy is an IT graduate and is working in an organization which creates an environment for him good to work. And now his performance is much better than, I can say, mine as well. He doesn't leave work, even if the last sentence is also not complete of his project, he will not leave the office. That's the kind of dedication, that's the kind of concentration that they put in if the environment is put in straight. Offer flexible schedules. So supposedly, if the individual on the spectrum on a particular day is not feeling well or is not in a mood or a state to come to office, we should have certain flexibilities. Okay, fine, we do understand and let's accommodate. Next is encourage open communication. So you need to understand them rather than telling them what not to do. Give them solutions as to what can be done. Am I clear? Or it's just going overboard? Is everyone with me?
Yes.
A louder yes? I would love. Okay, so adjust the physical workplace. So as we spoke about sensory issues, even you and me, probably when I come to work, I would like a cup of coffee and start my day. Probably Alicia would need a cup of coffee in an hour or two after work. She has started work. So even we have our preferences, right? So why not we understand their preferences? Why not we understand their world? Why not we make an environment? Suppose they don't like certain touch. So we can make the surface such a way that they are comfortable with. We make the place, the lights, or supposedly they do not like sound. So their workplace can be at a quiet area. Their workplace can be light sensitized. So all those things we can adjust so that they are comfortable and their maximum potential comes across. Provide clear instructions and routines. As I told you, they love routine. So is what Dr. Temple Grandin calls it, make a pilot's checklist. If the pilot needs, why can't we have one? So make a checklist. So you can just give a simple routine task for them. So today, when you come in, start with this, then do this, then do this. And they like routine. So every day when they come in, they will follow the same sync. And if that is put into place, they can do wonders. So a simple thing, you just give in a certain instruction card, they follow it, and things are in place. Use visual aids and structured workflow tools, as we just discussed. Next. So yes, your employee has a child who is on the autism spectrum, as we spoke. That me being in the office and my child there at home. So half of my mind is there, that what is my child doing? So how can we accommodate that situation? Offer flexible work arrangements. So if the employee gives a call to maybe Madeline, I don't know whom they call. Yeah. So they might just call in saying that, okay, fine, today my child is had a meltdown, or I have a situation at home. Is it okay either if I work from home or if I come in a little late? So we need to accommodate those kind of situations.
Dolly, don't worry, they are taking care of the working from home. You can see from the numbers.
Fantastic. Okay, offer financial support or resources. We can check. See, to be very frank, these parents are going through a lot of overload. On to top it, financially also they have to struggle. These therapies, these treatments, these doctor visits, the school. In school also they need shadow teachers, they need special education, and all those kind of things. They come at a cost. So why not be a little kind and speak with them if they need such kind of support? We can definitely do it as an organization. Next, organize employee assistance programs. So as we are doing now, so we can do that so that, see, those people are already aware whose children are on the spectrum. We are the ones who need to be aware to support them. So I put it that way. The crowd who already knows about it should not be the ones to be educated. We are the ones, when we see some reel on Instagram, if we come across autism or ADHD, we just flip it. We just go to the next. No, we need to be aware of these kind of situations so that we can help them.
Dolly, give me that. Guys, مين عارف إن إحنا عندنا الامبلوي assistant program? Anyone is aware of it? Anyone used it? Like, let me just share with you. I will do refreshment about it. This program, guys, is supporting in everything. Like, for example, if you're passing by financial crisis, this month I did an accident and I lost hundred of money. You can go for a consultant who can support you. Actually, consultant ده مش في مصر. Who can support you how you can arrange your financial situation. If you're passing by anything and you need a therapist or a psychologist, we do have a list of that. It's a global thing. Please go through it. أنا شخصيا فتحته. It's amazing. It's for free. Use it instead of go buying دلوقتي أي أقل therapist في مصر 1000K is the starting up to 3K. This is a tool that we have. It's for free. Financial support and consultation as well. It's like a 360 assistant tool. If you need the financial support, مش هيدوكوا فلوس بس I support you how to arrange your money. If you need a therapist, if you need a psychologist, please go and use it. Maybe from my side, I will resend again the communication regarding it and use it. فلوس عندك انت يا استاذ احمد. اديها لنا يا بنت. Thank you.
Super. So yes, we have a few insights from Madeline as well in regards to the same. So yes, all these things are really important to be put in place. Next, we have adjust deadlines when possible. So supposedly the employee has not been able to come to work, and that was the day when the podcast was supposed to go on air. So I would, suggest that somebody else could take up the job for that particular day and finish it, or we can adjust the deadline. So somebody else can pitch in and finish that particular deadline that was supposed to be done to be able to accommodate that employee. Provide access to family leaves. So yeah, that's also one of the...
Although it's a very important topic, guys. Take your leaves, use your annual leaves instead of having hundreds of annual leaves, okay?
Wow.
Take your leaves, guys, huh?
It's so pleasant to hear this. She's already raised her hand. She wants one, I think.
Rana wants leave.
You want leave or you have a question to ask?
Exactly. We're just pushing.
So that shows you love your work and you don't want to be at home. Is that so? Fantastic. We go next. So now we have what steps Adidas can take to help individuals with autism. So now I can have a conversation. Design sensory friendly apparels and footwear. As I told you, they have a lot of sensory issues. So we can tap around what are those things that they're comfortable with, and those kind of apparels and those kind of footwear can be introduced by Adidas. Launch a dedicated line for individuals with autism, such as easy to wear shoes with Velcro. There is a very nice example that I have. I recently, in one of our conferences, he was the keynote speaker, Tom Island. And he is a great speaker. Sorry, not Tom Island, Kerry Magro. He's a great speaker if you Google him. But still, he has issues in buttoning his shirt. He still has issues tying his lace. So they excel in certain things, but there are certain things that, that's not possible. So that's okay. So for them, we can find alternates. So like Velcro or zipper shoes that can be introduced for them instead of laces. It's a little difficult, the eye-hand coordination and all those things. So we can definitely put this in place. Collaborate with autism experts and families and take their expert advice. Incorporate sensory-friendly space in stores. So there might be children coming in and they find the lights too harsh on them or the sound too loud for them. So there can be a little sensory corner for those children in the store or, that kind of a thing. And those children can be accommodated there. They will feel much better. These individuals also will feel much better and comfortable. Sponsor autism-friendly community events. These are little tips that Adidas can put into place for these individuals on the spectrum. Just suggestions.
Yeah.
We can go next. So now we talk about sensitization of the organization for ADHD. So what if your employee is diagnosed as ADHD? Allow short and frequent breaks and create a quiet, focused workspace, as we spoke earlier. See, these solutions might be quite similar in regards to autism and ADHD. Provide a flexible work environment. Adjust workloads during high stress periods. So just take it a little slow with them. Provide access to mental health resources. This has become the need of the hour. Mental health, taking care of this aspect in life has become very important. Just as we go to the doctor for our fever, it is important to go and consult a doctor for mental health advice as well. What steps Adidas can take to help these kids with ADHD? Offer adaptive sports equipments, implement ADHD awareness campaigns, which you are doing already, provide training for coaches and staff. So there are these employment coaches, there are these coaches who can come to the workplace and train the individuals, neurotypicals and neurodiverse, so both of them can coordinate and work. So yes, those people you all can hire and they can, on a daily basis, they will just look at the activities and accordingly give you all the solutions. Design clothes for comfort and functionality. Gather feedback from families as to how, if we are implementing certain things, how are they working? Yes, this is a very beautiful video which sums up whatever I have spoken about. So now the shift, as I told you, is that these children are not less. it's nothing that they can't do. It is just that they are different and they do things differently. So what we call it as normal, there is no normal. Even you and me in some ways are weird. So they, in a lot of things, are a little different, but they are no less. Do you even know Elon Musk is on the spectrum? And what wonders has he done? So I just recently got to know, Dr. Temple Grandin told us, videography would have not been in place if there was no autism. The computers would have not been in place if there was no autism. People with autism have invented all of these. So yes, they can create wonders. I can say Elon Musk, Einstein. Einstein was on the spectrum. And you can see, the world has seen what he has done. Dr. Temple Grandin, she has created a hug machine, and she has done a lot of work for cattle in the US. So these people, if you get their ability in place, they can do wonders. Yeah, that's our website, which is called www.autismconnect.com. We can go on to the next slide. So what we do is basically, we are an association of parents and professionals, and it is formed to disseminate scientifically validated information about therapies, treatments, and other things for autism. Now what happens is, when these parents get to know that the child has been diagnosed and is on the spectrum, the first thing that they do is Google. And on Google, definitely there is information, but there is a lot of mixed information. You need to filter it and get to the conclusion what is right and what is not. So what we at Autism Connect have done, we have curated all the correct information and put it all together, so it is easier for parents to access information right from how to diagnose, what are the signs and symptoms, till the newer age treatments that are available for these children, and we show them that there is a lot of hope and a lot of things that can be done. So yes, this is what we do. We connect parents, professionals, and the entire community. We go to the next slide. That's how our page looks like. That's the web page. So we have our tabs, which is home, about autism, standard therapies, newer treatments, a lot of resources. And our USP is the directory that we have, which has more than 50,000 contacts of parents, professionals, schools, associations, all of those, and divided country-wise. So if you put in Egypt and you would like to check for a therapist or a doctor, there you have all the information. We go quickly next. That's the directory. So yes, we have also a lot of blogs that are written by doctors, therapists, professionals, and very easy to understand format that we have put all this information. A lot of resources, a lot of apps that will help these children, and parents get access to this free of cost. There is no charge to be on Autism Connect website. There is no registration fee or all those kind of jazz. So these are our activities that we do. We released a book, which I will give it to you all. It is called Treatment for Autism. It's sort of a Bible for these parents. We released the book in Arabic as well on our conference, we go next. So this is a sensitization and instructional video that we did for the airlines. So these children have a lot of issues, and the staff at the airlines does not understand, and there have been instances where these children and the parents have not been allowed to board the flight. So what all steps can be taken for such kind of situations is all there in this video. We called in experts from different parts of the world. You can see from Dubai and England, and as well from Kenya. We took all of it into consideration and we made a sensitization video. Next, we do a lot of seminars. First one being in Maldives, the next being in Kenya, Uganda, and London. And yes, now we have our conference, which is the International Conference for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders. We did the first one in Dubai, which was a huge success. And next, we had to do another one in the same year because people demanded for it, which was in Tanzania. We can go next. Yeah, next. Our upcoming projects are very interesting. We are planning a digital rehabilitation platform. We got to know from a lot of places and countries that I went to London for this seminar, and this parent came up to me saying that for me to get my child diagnosed, I have been given an appointment after 2 years. 2 years is the wait time. So till then, the child and the parent is clueless what is happening and what step needs to be taken. So if there is a digital platform that can connect a doctor who is here in Egypt to a parent who is there in London waiting for a diagnosis, the problem is solved. And it can be done digitally according to your time and according to the availability of the professional. It becomes easier. Next, we have a Panda Mama project. So we are developing a panda which will have a sort of, will be able to identify the mood of the child and will calm the child down if the child is having a meltdown. If the child is calm, this toy will try to teach them, because when they are in a calm mood, they are very receptive. So this is a kind of a toy that they can, be cozy, comfortable with, and in the bargain, they will learn a lot as well. So we are trying to put this as well into place. It will have a lot of sensory play, it will have AI and all of those as well incorporated. We go next. Yes, this is our conference that we are coming up with in the US of A, and Dr. Temple Grandin is our keynote speaker. Yes, that's coming up on the 17th and 18th of April 2025. We can go next. So this is the podcast that we have launched recently. And the first podcast that we shot was with Dr. Temple Grandin, who is the god in the autism world. So yeah, we were really lucky to collaborate with her and do. Yes, she's on the spectrum. And you can just watch her story. She's done wonders. And you will not even think that, this lady had high functioning autism. She's doing so well. Next, so this podcast shows that there is a lot of hope for these children. And next, this is Thomas Island, and that's his fiance. So yes, relationships are also possible. Now they both are getting married in 2025. So that's what I said. If things are in place, everything is possible. Everything, even relationships, even marriages, everything. So if you watch this podcast, you will just have a feel. In fact, these individuals are so dedicated towards their partners. You might just end up saying that I think I should have a partner who is on the spectrum. They're so much better. Believe me, if you watch this, you will get a glimpse of it. So yes, we had a podcast with them as well, talking about relation. So we are trying to cover all aspects, doubts we are trying to clear through the podcasts. So yeah, that's the contact details of our organization. We can go on the next slide. Egyptian time, every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. is when the podcast is put in live. Yes, it is available anytime that you can watch it. So you can subscribe for one and watch the podcast. So thank you so much, guys. I hope I was clear, and I hope I was able to pass on the message that I am here for. Yes or no? Yes, the backbenchers are back. So yes, I want to know your feedback, as in, have you understood this concept? Yes, definitely in depth and in a technical way, in so-called doctor's language. Dr. Alicia will be explaining y'all. But I hope as a layman, as a very simple language, I was able to communicate. I need a yes or a no. No, I need a yes or a yes. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for listening in. And yes, we have Dr. Alicia Lalji, who will join us, who is going to give us amazing insights. Please, doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would really love to thank Madeline. She's been a sweetheart.
I'm Dr. Alisha Lalji, and I hope to give you some more insight about the topic that has already been covered today briefly. So my role here is to answer any questions that you may have. It's going to be short and crisp because I understand that a lot of you will have to resume work in the next 35 to 40 minutes. So let's talk about autism and what's being. Let me help you understand the term therapy. We use the term very often. You probably have a fair understanding of it. Let me tell you a little more about the word therapy. Therapy is any treatment that helps you deal with the problem that we have in hand. So even as adults, you may visit a therapist or a psychologist when you need help. It can be a difficulty related to any form of anxiety, depression, any stress, any mental health illness. So for that, we visit a therapist. Now, when we're talking about a person with autism, they may also need various therapies. Now, I'm going to help you run through most of the therapies that are available very quickly so you have a better understanding. Speech therapy. While I talk to you, I am communicating with you. And I am also talking to you, so there is speech. But at the same time, if I'm talking to you and then I stop talking to you and then I do this, do you still get what I'm saying? That's because this is my communication to you. I can communicate to you even if I do not have speech. So people with autism on the spectrum who do not have any speech can benefit from speech therapy. How does speech therapy help? Speech therapy helps in case of those who don't have speech, wherein I teach you how to speak. So there are various oromotor exercises that you have. They may use like a different kind of toothbrush. They teach you sipping, blowing and chewing exercises. How do you learn sipping differently? By using differently shaped straws. You can use bubbles, you can use a balloon. And you also have a massager that is used. These oromotor exercises together form speech therapy. Like I said, not everyone may have speech, but you can still communicate, and that's what speech therapy teaches you. Now here what I have is, there are two different apps that I've put in. The first one there is Avaz, and the second one here is a Talkit. These are speech apps for adults with autism, wherein they can communicate better in spite of not having speech. Occupational therapy is basically a form of therapy that uses your gross motor and fine motor skills. What are gross and fine motor skills? Gross motor skills are skills that involve your entire body. So sitting, standing, jumping, those would be your gross motor skills. But whenever I have to use my fingertips, my toe tips to pick up smaller things, those would be fine motor skills. Very often, children or adults with autism would have difficulties with developing their gross and fine motor skills, and that's when occupational therapy or OT can help them. Education. Now, it is understandable that people on the spectrum often, not always, may have an IQ that is different from a person who is neurotypical. Say if a neurotypical IQ is between 95 to 105, a person on the spectrum may have an IQ above that, or in certain cases may have an IQ below that. In that case, academically, they may not be able to cope as a person who is going to a regular school, or a person who is neurotypical or normal. I don't like to use the word, I'm just using it to make it easier for you to understand, or a person who is normal. In that case, education for them is a little different. Education needs to be structured on the basis of the same. There are two types of educations that are provided. Here there is special education and then there is remedial education. Special education, as the word suggests, is for people with special needs, wherein there's a delay in everything that I'm doing. My milestones are all delayed. So my neck holding takes time. As a baby, to sit or turn takes time. To walk takes time. To speak takes time. So when there is a delay
in my milestones, a lot of them, and maybe when the child is special, the child needs special education. Now, what is remedial education and how is that different? You may have realized that when you have siblings, out of the 2-3 of you, one has some lags in academics. One is probably not a 10 on 10 like the other sibling. When there is a little lag, but you're not a special child, you are normal, you may need remedial education. How does remedial education work? Remedial education helps to bridge the gap between what you're supposed to know for your age and what you already know. They talk about different aids in teaching. For example, say I have a 5-year-old child who is unable to write ABCD. How can I teach the same thing to the child differently? If it was a normal child, I would have written it. But if it's a special child and I need to make it more interesting, I have to figure out ways to make it more interesting. Maybe I can take a tray of sand, put sand in it, and tell the child to use their pointer, use their finger. So that's also sensory. So you write an A, you write a B, and it's just different. Take some paint, use it on the floor. It's different. So that's how special education and remedial education works. The person is a trained educator. It's just that the same academics is made more fun for the child. Now I'm going to quickly run through all the other therapies that we have for children with special needs and autism especially. The same therapies can also be used with children with ADHD as well. Physical therapy is like physiotherapy, wherein there are delays in walking. I need to walk, I need to hold my neck, I need to turn, I need to take a few steps, and that's where physical therapy comes to use. Visual therapy is used when a child is unable to maintain eye contact. Let me tell you a simple way in which I go. Can you all see this red dot here on the screen? Yes. Correct? Now imagine if it was still darker in the room and there is a child sitting and this red dot is the only source of light. What will the child do? Exactly, the child will look at it. And then very gradually, I'm going to move this, and even without telling the child is going to track this red dot. That's an example of visual therapy or tracking. This helps to increase eye contact, which we say is tough in autism. So if someone is not looking at me, I can't go up to them, lift their chin and say, look at me. Because that method is not the right method. I have to make them still look and focus, and I can do this at the same time. Okay, so I use a laser light at clinic. You can also use any ball with light, any toy with light that can be of use too. Aqua therapy, as the name suggests, is therapy in water. A lot of people, even who are wheelchair bound or even walking with crutches, can be very independent in water. So when you keep them in water, they are able to float, they are able to manage their body weight. Aqua therapy involves various exercises, maybe like a cycle in the water, and they're able to do it, body balancing and other exercises. So that's a part of aqua or water therapy. Animal therapy, or it's also called animal assisted therapy, is a form of therapy wherein you actually get a pet and come to the therapy center. So I used to work at a school earlier wherein they actually got a dog there once a week. Kids on the spectrum would tap the dog. Then they would ask the children, how many eyes does he have? How many do you have? How many legs does he have? How many do you have? Kids got used to its texture. A lot of kids who even had a fear of dogs, it later went away. The dog was a very friendly Labrador. So kids developed social skills later. Then they got used to sitting around the dog. So we saw a lot of changes from day 1 to day 10 with the dog. So that's a part of animal assisted therapy. Art-based therapy could be anything that involves art, drama, any sensory toys, anything with texture, even drums, any musical instrument. That would be a part of art-based therapy that helps children with special needs. And counseling, of course, because not only children, but these children grow up to be adults, and you need to counsel them further to be able to help them live a normal life. A lot may be in relationships and struggle in relationships because they don't know how to be. A lot with sensory issues may not like the partner hugging them, and this is something which would make their relationship difficult. a lot with sensory issues may not like certain body substances touching them, which can again be an issue in a relationship. A lot of individuals on the spectrum may not be able to marry due to the nature of their condition. At the same time, when they do see their other peers and friends marry, get into relationships and have children, they can feel let down, and so counseling helps on those occasions as well. And also counseling the family, sensitizing the parents to this child or adult with autism is also extremely essential. How to help an employee with autism, this has been covered at length. So since we have less time, I would not be running through this. What is the difference between ADD and ADHD? Now, if we see the acronym, the difference is just the letter H, which means ADD is attention deficit disorder. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Yes.
Because I was sharing this with my team before, someone told me that I do have ADD. So I can tell you what I'm doing and let me know if this is what I have. Like ADD, when I get to think about several things at the same time and I get interrupted very quickly. So for example, talking to you, someone is passing and I remember that I want to share something with him, so I interrupt, I go to this person. Is it this?
So the thing is, out of 5, 1 person would have it. So if we are say 15 or 20 of us, 3 to 4 people would have it. Now, at the same time, ADD can be induced even by burnout. If you're stressed, if you have a lot of things to do, your head is going to be at different places.
Yeah.
If you're say at a position wherein there are people who are answerable to you or you're responsible for something, your attention will be divided. So when your attention is divided, it's because of the nature of the job. And it may not necessarily be ADD or ADHD. So it's as common as 1 in 5. How would you generally know? So where I practice at a clinic, where I work, I see a lot of hyper parents. Hyper parents come with hyper children. So you never see 2 parents being very hyper and the child being very calm. Correct? So I call this a hyper genes. So do you know when you have, when there is a school, you have like an open house wherein the parents come, what do you call it? Open forum? Parent meeting? Okay. Now very often when I used to work at a school and there was this one child who would be very difficult to deal with because the child was very hyper. And I would wait for the parent meeting to complain to the parent, but this parent would be 2x more hyper than the child. Which specifically means that hyper children come with hyper parents, which makes it more tough to change. So it can be genetic, a mind that's always preoccupied. Now, in today's day and age, the world that we are living in, most of you are subject to burnout. There's a lot of exhaustion, there's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of deadline. Now, with a system like that, you cannot label yourself because that's the nature of the work and that's the nature of your job. And the last one is, what do you think is the major cause of this? Now, going back to the screen and screen addiction, let me teach you some statistics. According to the WHO, the screen time for a 5-year-old should not be more than 30 minutes. And there should be no screen time at all for a child who's under 4. What happens when there is a screen? There is a screen in front of a child. What does the child do? Correct? That's how you're going. Your mind gets medically conditioned to processing things this fast. Then you want things this fast, but you're not going to get it this fast. So even when you're at a supermarket, you want to go, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Next, next, next. What next? Okay, I'm bored. Give me this, give me that. Take out all the toys. Because your screen has conditioned you to become hyper, to want things fast and to want immediate gratification of things. And this is very important in inducing ADHD and ADD. Because you're distracted, you're preoccupied, because you're used to the speed of into 5. And when you're asked to wait, you can't wait. And I'm still purposely telling you to wait, and then you'll be a little jittery, edgy, on your toes. Okay, when? That's because I'm used to this particular speed. So the screen would be a major reason for this attention deficit. What if there's a child at the store who's hyper? I'm not even labeling it. I'm not calling it a disorder. I'm not calling it a disability. What if there's a child at the store who's hyper? What can you do better? Firstly, avoid crowding. What we do is when there is, say, a calamity, you have 5 people around it in general. It's human tendency, you want to know what's happening. And if there's a crowd, we are also part of the crowd to know why there is a crowd to the crowd. Right? So the first thing is avoid crowding. The second thing would be ask the parent or the caregiver if they need some form of help. If the child is a female, I would suggest if there is a female attendant around, they could help them. If the child is male, I would suggest if the male is around, they could help them better. And there should be not more than 2 people to assist in case of this meltdown. Can anyone tell me what is the kind of music that you generally play when you're working out or at the gym? With the beats? Fast? Okay. Can anyone tell me why you do that?
Be more energetic.
To be more in pace? Correct? Now, in reality, when you listen to the same beats, when you're not working out, when you're not exercising, throughout the day, that vigor becomes a part of your normalcy. So when you need to calm down, you need to play the music that's the opposite. So you just play some very soft beats, no lyrics, just some tone. That's the same thing you do with hyper kids. Open your phone, open YouTube, play a song that's very soft. This helps to calm children down. So if you feel there's a child who's very hyper, remember to take out your phone and play something, and you can try it at home too with your kids. Yes, I'm sure it's easier to give them the phone. That's a separate story altogether. Every family is very different. But if you need to calm a hyper child down, what's going to work the best is going to be playing an audio of some very soft beats. Another thing you can do at a store is have a surprise box. Kids love surprises, but these are surprises that will stay with you, but they're just going to be with them for a while. This surprise box can have various forms of toys. It can have a ball with light, it can have a doll, a car. It can have anything that's used in therapy and is relatively not expensive, does not cost a lot of money. You can have a puzzle. Now, the yellow smiley ball actually helps. Have you ever held a ball and pressed it like this? When you're anxious, the supply of oxygen to your blood is wavered. And then you feel more anxious and then you feel restless. You need to calm down. Doing something like this increases the supply of oxygen to your blood. Another quick thing you can do is also to stretch. I think that's something that I will suggest now. Try stretching with both your hands in front. In front. As if you're pushing the object in front of you. Now do that above as if you're pushing the ceiling. All of you. I think we all need it at the end of the day. Push as if you're pushing the ceiling. Now do the same on the sides. Both your hands. And then come back. Stretching helps majorly. Now let me teach you another quick calming exercise. We as adults can use it too, because we also have anxious lives and our days are also pretty preoccupied. I want you, all of you, to breathe in from the bottom of your stomach, hold it up to your chest for 3 seconds and exhale from your mouth as long as you can. Until your stomach feels completely deflated. Let's do it again. Breathe in from the bottom of your stomach. Hold it up to your chest and deflate. This helps majorly in case of anxiety. So when you feel you're having a meltdown or an anxiety attack, this is not something we use only for children but adults as well. The first thing you can do is simply try stretching exercises, breathing exercises, and then just calm down. So these are a few toys that can help when there are children, and just a box, or I call it the surprise box, at any store would help. We keep it at schools and hospitals too. You just ask them to pick. So when you ask them to pick, even there's a meltdown, they're going to be distracted. They're going to pick what they like, so they're going to be quiet, and they're going to play with it for some time, so there's not going to be a lot of shouting and screaming. That's the objective. What can we do differently? I think Dolly's already covered in terms of spreading awareness, talking about textures, also making it easily accessible in terms of wearing shoes, velcros, and zips. Also, we need to promote that it is not visible yet. Let's admit it's present. Now, when I see someone who can't see, I feel sensitive and I move because they can't see. If I see someone who can't hear and is wearing a hearing aid, I feel sensitive because that's something that is visible. I see someone on the wheelchair or with crutches, I realize there's a problem and I move. But when I see someone on the spectrum who does not have any of these four, I'm not that sensitive because I feel, oh, poor parenting. What parents? Meltdown. They don't know how to take care of their child, but I think every parent is fighting a battle on their own. And like I say this, when you conceive or when you're in the hospital delivering, you don't deliver along with a certificate of parenting. You learn on the job, you all make mistakes and it's fine. So I think breathing, stretching exercises would help. And I also feel that there is some kind of ability that we see in this neurodivergence, and we need to focus on that as well. If you have any questions with regard to mental health or disabilities, I'll be more than happy to answer it. We have another 15 minutes. Anything from the spectrum, anything related to disabilities, you can take your time and think about it.
We can cover the question the gentleman asked in a medical way. He did ask how.
Why males have more autism?
At what age does it get? Is it from birth or so that's
okay? Autism, let me tell you, is there very much from birth. Okay. Now, if I'm born with an issue in the eye, I know at birth. If I'm born without one hand or leg, I know at birth. But when it comes to autism, there is repetition. There is slapping. There is perseverance, saying the same thing again and again. And I can't see these signs at birth because the child looks just like a normal child. But all these issues are there from the beginning. Also, autism, like Dolly mentioned, is more in boys than in girls. Would anyone like to know why? Because it's a very interesting question. No one has asked why. Autism is more in boys than in girls, and why? Sorry? Yes, you're right. Do we have chalk or something? That's okay, it's okay, Madeline said. Okay, so we do have? That's okay. We have, each one of us has 23 pairs of chromosomes. Each one of you has 23. And they are pairs. Pairs mean two. So one comes from your mom, one dad. Mom, dad, mom, dad. In Down syndrome, on the 23rd pair, there are 3. So that's how someone's born with Down syndrome. Okay. Now, why is autism more, or rather, let me say, all disabilities are more in men than in women? The reason being, women have only an X chromosome. Men have an X and a Y. So for me to be born, it's been my mother and father, X, and that's how I'm born. Now, firstly, let me make this clear that the man decides the sex of the child. I think we know that, right? The gender of the child is decided by the man. Because a woman only has X and a man has X and Y. Okay? Now, when there is a girl at the same time, there is an X from the mother and X from the father. Say if there was one X that was problematic, the X from the other parent will balance it. Now say if there's a boy and the mother gives an X, because that's all we have, and the father gives a Y. Say if there's a problem in the X, there's no X on the other side to balance, and if there's a problem in the Y, there's no Y on the other side to balance. So medically, most disabilities are more in men because there is a chromosome problem, and that one X cannot balance that Y. I hope that answers your question. Anything else with regard to mental health or disabilities? Dolly, what was this question specifically? Autism from birth? Yes. But we can't see it.
We can't see. When do you diagnose?
I have seen as early as, okay, so I recently saw a parent 2 months ago. She said at 7 months her child wasn't turning. So she was a dentist. She said, I have some medical knowledge. So at 7 months, she put that child for physiotherapy. So in 4 months, the child started walking. This was not on the spectrum, but delays. 4 months, she started walking. Then she said, now she's 10 months old. Everyone is saying a few words. She's saying nothing. So she put her for speech therapy. Then she said now she's been on speech therapy for a year. She said now she's saying everything, she's 2, I'm going to stop. But she said I'm tired. Imagine from the age of 6 months, I'm only running therapy to therapy.
What are the red flags that parents should look for and act upon for ADHD and autism?
I think I'll say autism first. Lack of eye contact. Absolutely no eye contact. Now, even when you're calling out to a child, the child responds to a mother or a father or someone, responds to colors, responds to light. But if I'm still not responding, I'm just looking as if I'm looking blank, as if I can't see. That would be the first red flag. A lot of children with autism do not, even when we talk about textures and how their clothes and different textures, and they don't like the texture of foods. So I have a section that comes to me with, we don't eat these 100 items, which includes certain fruits, citrus fruits, certain textures, because it's sour. They don't like it being rubbery, they don't like the seeds, they don't like to chew. So there are also food concerns that come up. There are also delays, like I say, in all milestones. When I say milestones, what you're supposed to do at 6 months and 7 months, turning is not there, there's no eye contact, there's no grinning, neck holding is not proper. So when we hold a child who's 3-4 months, you hold your hand here, right? And then you remove it after that. But even for up to 9 months, a mother is still keeping her hand here because there is no neck holding. So these are a few very early signs under 1 year.
Any other questions? Any questions?
I think that, or maybe the perception is that autism, or every time we get in touch with autism, someone with autism, I have a perception that it's with younger people, with kids and children again. Do they learn how to control it as they get older, even without maybe thorough therapy and practice, etc.? Is it something, or is it just a perception?
So autism is on the spectrum wherein it's mild, moderate and severe. If there's someone mild, they probably will be amongst us and we wouldn't know. So even if they have a few symptoms as they grow, so when children reach puberty, 13 to 15 years of age, there is a spurt of growth. When there is this spurt, a few symptoms can drop. So even without anything, you may see certain changes, but this would only be in case of those who are mildly on the spectrum. If it's like a moderate, they have to be on therapy. Therapy would help to an extent, but no form of therapy will take away the autism from you. So there isn't any one treatment. Yes, if say you have 5 symptoms of autism, you have different therapies for that. Maybe if your symptoms are with 0 on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, say you have 80% of the symptom, therapy can help to reduce that to 50, 40, and you will display less symptoms. But nothing's going to take away the autism. It doesn't go.
So I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.